Okay, so we are going to go into our next segment here. This is the Precision Pivots segment. In this segment, we will go through some of the pivots that you can go off of some of our main focus games that we had there, or some potential high ownership guys that you might want to, pivot off of to give yourself an advantage in GPP. So, I don't know. Positional pivot, or precision pivots is what I'm calling it. I'm going to say that two of my pivot QBs in this are going to be Russell Wilson and Josh McCown. And Josh McCown is in the top 10 quarterbacks this year. Like, he's been 100% serviceable as a fantasy quarterback. He's 10th.
He's 10th.
But, that's not half bad. Because you don't expect that.
Yeah, it's not even a third bad.
No. So, what are your thoughts at the QB position for a pivot?
Well, I think a lot of the chalky guys are going to be Cam Newton, going to be Andy Dalton, just because of the matchups they have. Drew Brees, it's well documented when he plays at home in the Superdome, he goes off.
Brees and Brady Chicago are rated 1 and 2 for the PFF
and Brady at home too. I mean, Chargers defense is a little bit better than a lot of people know. We saw them go off
pass
last
rush.
week.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. But Brady's Brady, right? He's always going to off. So he'll probably be chalky. He's one of the more expensive. He is the most expensive on the slate. Breeze at home is always going off. Chicago's been good at home. Chicago's let up 24 points or more in 3 of their away games, though. So Breeze is probably a good bet for a couple of touchdowns. I think those are the chalky guys. I like the pivot. I think Deshaun Watson, who's been just absolutely dynamite for pretty much the whole season since he got control of the team. A lot of people might be shy that he's on the road, might be fading him because he's against the Seahawks. This isn't the Legion of Boom that we came to know and love since 2011. These guys are giving up points. There's too much going on in this offense. Deshaun Watson is just creating too many plays. I think he keeps it going. He's going to make this one interesting.
Not to mention, Hopkins isn't going to stay on one side, and Sherman isn't your shadow corner. He's basically plays his side, and that's it. So moving Hopkins around, he's still going to get his looks and most likely some major receptions.
Right, and it would actually benefit Houston more to put Fuller against, to put Fuller on the left against Sherman, because Sherman's like a 4.5, 4.6 runner. He's not going to be able to keep up with Fuller. Fuller's going to be able to blow past them. The speed that Fuller's added to this offense has just made everything even more supercharged than it was before. Lamar Miller might struggle a little, but then again, I mean, Seattle hasn't been that amazing against the run. Actually, that's a lie. I think they're top 5 against the run, but this is just this is too exciting of an offense to watch. I don't think they're going to get slowed down. And then, it's a good test for Watson. He's away. He's in a really noisy, aggressive stadium. They're not going to let him have anything easy in this game, but I think he comes away as a winner. He's my top pivot play. Take him with the discount you get against the defense and the matchup that he has.
For running backs, I'm looking at someone like Chris Thompson and McCaffrey, but he might be chalky himself. So mostly I'm just looking at Thompson, who's been I think he's on pace for 100 receptions and over 1,000 receiving yards. So it's with the lack of Terrell Pryor in that offense, he's basically catching everything as a check down play. So he's pretty much my pivot if you're going to go for a pivot at running back. But we're playing with, you have a couple, we mentioned some discount QBs and stuff like that. You can pay up in a lot of positions in this week. So that's the only one of note other than McCaffrey and Mixon, which we already mentioned, that are in our focus games. But I don't really see any other running backs that I would choose to pivot with.
Yep. And the 2 most expensive running backs, Le'Veon Bell and Todd Gurley, are not playing on this slate. So, I mean, being able to pay up to what is essentially the top end of the running back slate isn't even paying up to the top end of what is typically expensive. So
you still get Zeke anyways. You can he's probably going to be chalk for sure. So
he could be. It's actually Redskins are a really good run defense though. So I mean, he doesn't have the greatest.
But he put up 43 points.
Yeah, well, he had the top running matchup against San Fran. I mean, I think everybody and their grandmother saw that one coming, especially when it looked like it might be his last game of the season.
Now this one does
40 points, but I don't know. I don't know if he's going to put up. Yeah, he'll always get his 20 touches, right? Like he's going to get his 20 touches, 3 or 4 catches. What he does with them, anybody can guess. He'll probably be 100 total yards, probably get into the end zone. So he's a solid bet, but he's expensive. Not so chalky, like I said earlier, Joe Mixon, if he can run out this game, Indy's not very good against the run. We saw Jacksonville, pretty much every Jacksonville running back had a pretty good day last week. Shady McCoy also against Oakland probably could put up some points. And then a guy that's not really probably chalky and not really a pivot because he's probably always right around that 10-12% ownership. Devonta Freeman, he's got a fairly decent matchup, at least in terms of run blocking and run stopping. It's a game that could get away from the Jets if they get behind early. And it looks like Tevin Coleman's a little banged up. So if he doesn't get the workload that he typically does, or if he...
You disconnected there. We are talking about Tevin Coleman.
Tevin Coleman. So, yeah, what I was talking about was Devonta Freeman, typically not really high ownership or low ownership. He's right around the middle there, 10-12%. But Tevin Coleman's banged up. If he doesn't play or if he's limited in his workload, then Freeman's going to be almost an every down back. And like I said, if this game gets away from the Jets, he's going to be able to have free reign for the last quarter.
So at the wide receiver position, there's quite a few pivots that you can go here. We mentioned Aguilar in our kind of main slate mayhem. He's generally not high owned, and I think people still are pretty jaded about his pass dropping, but he is doing a lot better this year.
So he's been really consistent. He's got touchdowns in like 3 of the last 4 games.
Exactly. So he might not be so much of a pivot, but like more of a precision pivot in this kind of thing. I'm looking at Ted Ginn, who has been, seeing a lot of targets from Breeze over the last couple games, and we are looking at I'm going to say Jermaine Kearse. Like I mentioned, McCown, and you stack Kearse. I think this game he actually might throw up some decent points. So if you're going to pivot off one of your wide receivers, I think he's a good look.
Okay. No, I can agree with that. I kind of like Atlanta's defense in this game. So in that, I'm a little bit tepid about playing Jets wide receivers. I actually have some really sort of outlandish pivots in terms of wide receivers, and that would be just because of yet another diva, it would seem, with Martavis Bryant sort of having an implosion on his team this week. It looks like he's not even going to be active against Detroit. Antonio Brown's got a pretty sketchy matchup against a defense that's been holding number 1 wide receivers to under 20 points per game all season long. So I actually really like Juju Smith-Schuster in this game. He's been involved in the offense. He's been involved in the red zone. If he can get, even just 5 or 6 catches and maybe like a long one, he could be over 20 points pretty easily. And then one of the other guys who is kind of an up-and-comer who has been getting more and more involved in the offense as time goes on this year is Josh Doctson in Washington. Mm-hmm. He's slowly actually stolen the job from Terrell Pryor, which at the start of the season you never would have thought that was coming. But Pryor was on the sideline for a lot of last game. He almost caught a touchdown. He's got touchdowns in 2 other games this year, so he's a big-bodied receiver. And again, with Washington, you've got a fairly good wide receiver that's going to be covering what's his face? I don't know. But I like Josh Doctson in this game. He's been getting a bigger market share of the offense, and for Kirk Cousins, who could throw 2 or 3 touchdowns, I bet you one of them goes to him.
I like Doctson too. I think he's a better route runner than Pryor. Pryor kind of like survives off his athleticism, which is what he did in Cleveland. Go out there and run, and if you get open, we're going to throw you the ball. Whereas now he's in a more timing-based offense with Cousins, and I think Cousins is like one of the most accurate QBs this year. So, and that's just because they do that. You run a route, if you're there, you get the ball. I'm down with both those that you said. Now, Juju won't help you in our main slate Millie Maker. If I'm gonna take a pivot from,
that's true.
No, but like we're talking other games too, like so that we can cover the other slates. Looking at Marvin Jones Jr. He's just he's a magnet for red zone targets from Stafford.
Yeah.
He just loves targeting him, and Tate's out, so
for sure
he's definitely somebody that you might want to target. Baltimore, if you're gonna pivot off like a main slate tight end, you're gonna look at Ben Watson because they don't have any wideouts. They don't really have a quarterback throwing to their wideouts anyways.
I don't trust anybody in Baltimore catching passes right now.
There's nobody else on that team to receive the ball other than Ben Watson. So
Watson's not catching it either. Like,
he's not, but he dropped 2 in the end zone. But I'm just saying, like, this is like it's a pivot that you could make if you think that it's the world has to throw them a bone at some point.
No, it doesn't.
You might want to look at them. But that essentially for wideouts, like then you're looking at some guys that Keenan Allen could see some targets.
Amazing matchup. Keenan Allen's one of the top 5 in terms of targets. I think he's actually second to Antonio Brown in total targets this year.
But he has that percentage chance that you gave him at the start of the season, which is
could always break his body any given moment. But he has a phenomenal matchup. So against the Patriots, I mean, Butler and I can't think of the other kid's name on the outside in the Patriots defense, but they've been playing pretty good. And if Rivers wants to exploit their weakest area, it's up the middle. Keenan runs most of his routes out of the slot. Second most targeted receiver in the league right now. I mean, it doesn't get much better than against the Patriots in this one. So, yeah, Keenan Allen's. I bet he's pretty chalky. I don't think he's gonna be overlooked. Pierre Garçon, I kind of like. Runs a lot of slot routes. Eagles have been weak in the middle as well.
Their secondary sucks too. So.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, Roby might be back this week. Might be, but we'll have to see.
Moving on to tight end, I did mention already Ben Watson, but you're also looking at somebody like Austin Seferian-Jenkins, who's been doing pretty great this year. Zach Miller, I've been tossing him in as a very, very cheap tight end option, and again, that's just with a rookie quarterback going through your check down options and just tossing it to the tight end, the big body out there in the slot essentially. You're looking at Griffin. He was highly owned. I think it was two weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. And you mentioned that you like Watson, so again, you could throw him in there. I think that he would be a decent play. As far as tight ends go, that's pretty much it. You're like naming everybody. Like it's kind of like you almost have to find your OJ Howard in order to win in a 9-game Millie Maker this week. So not necessarily a tight end, but you need to find that.
Yeah, man. I think for tight end this week, I pay up to Gronk, I pay up to Zach Ertz. I just kind of take the guessing work out of the equation for this one. You could say Zach Miller, who's pretty cheap going against New Orleans, likely a shootout, might get some work. But when you're limiting Trubisky to less than 20 attempts, not even passes like caught, but when you're limiting him to less than 20 pass attempts per game, there's not a lot of passes to go around. So I don't know if I like Miller, but Croft is pretty decent, could get a touchdown. Dixon.
You're basically hunting for a touchdown at tight end. It's basically you just need somebody that's going to score a touchdown.
Well, so that's why I say like I'm probably going to pay up. Like I'll probably go with Gronk, or I'll probably go with Zach Ertz.
Oh, I'm looking at that too.
Henry too.
Yeah.
Like this is a week where you don't mess around. You don't play games trying to overthink it. And there's a couple good tight end matchups, and you got to pay up for it. Find your value somewhere else. Find your value at wide receiver. Find your value at quarterback, whatever the case may be. But I think I'll probably, for the most part, be paying up at tight end for Gronk or Ertz, maybe some, Hunter Henry, something like that.
Yeah. Well, PFF has
Fleener, man. If they got 30 points flinging around in New Orleans, maybe he'll catch something.
Look at my face. No. No Fleener. Top 5 tight ends on PFF.
He cut off his mullet and he stopped catching passes. Idiot.
Well, he left his college buddy Andrew Luck. So, top 5 tight ends this week. Projections are Gronk, Ertz, Reed, Henry, and Jimmy Graham. We'll move on to the defense to end off our precision pivots. We are, you know what? I'm gonna say these are my 4 teams that I'm gonna look at now. I say Bears, Chargers, Jets, and New Orleans.
You like the Bears defense?
The Bears defense is the only team that I don't think they've allowed a touchdown in 2 games. So I think they're the only team that hasn't allowed a touchdown in 2 games. And I know that we're playing Breeze in the Superdome.
They've allowed 24 points or more on the road this year.
They have. You already stated something like that. I'm just saying they counteract that with some of their other abilities. I know who you're already talking about because I saw your text early, so I'll let you get into that.
Well, I actually like New Orleans. They've been playing pretty consistently the last few weeks. And then, like I said, you got a quarterback that you're up against that's been limited to less than 20 pass attempts per game in Trubisky. They're playing a ball control offense. You can't depend on your defense scoring all your points for you, and you're not going to do it in the Superdome against Drew Brees at home. So I think Chicago's probably going to get their bell rung pretty hard in this game. Outside of that, you can take the Bengals against a road Colts team.
They're going to be pretty chalky, though.
Yeah, they'll be really chalky. But, I mean, this isn't like – this whole year hasn't been one of those years where you've got like, oh, yeah, this is the defense. No. It's kind of been all over the place from week to week, so you kind of have to pick your spots. I mean, anytime you're up against Phillip Rivers, you're good for a couple interceptions, so maybe even the Patriots this week. But my pick is definitely New Orleans.
Well, like I said, I got Bears that I kind of like, Chargers against New England, and that's just simply for pass rush because this year Brady's been taking a lot of sacks when under pressure, and their pass rush is pretty damn relentless. The Jets, I'm only saying the Jets because Atlanta is like 0-3 against AFC teams and 3-0 against NFC teams. So I'm going to say that.
Yeah, they haven't looked the same as last year. They're scoring like
Matt Ryan is nowhere close to as accurate as elite Matt Ryan. So I like the Jets in that spot. Now, my only problem with your New Orleans pick is, again, you were mentioning the pass attempts with Mitch Trubisky. They've come out and said that they're going to be a run-first team, just like Green Bay has said that they will be now without Rodgers. So you might lose a little bit of defensive point equity for picks and whatnot. But that's the only problem I have with that D. But New Orleans is no slouch either. We've seen what they did 2 weeks ago. So
yeah, well, that was a weird game. Yeah, I just don't think you win games by only running the ball. I mean, You have to have a pretty balanced offense. So at some point, if Breeze has put up 3 touchdowns on you, you got to start throwing it. And Trubisky, he's probably going to be a decent quarterback at some point. But right now, they're trying to hide him behind Jordan Howard, and they're trying to hide him behind, pylons and shrubbery. But I don't think it's gonna hold up, man. Like, I think they get behind in this game, something's got to give. Jordan Howard is going to get his touches, but I don't think they keep up with New Orleans, and at some point they're going to have to start throwing it. I don't think they have a good game. I like the Eagles too, to be honest. Yeah. I think they've been downgraded a little bit with Jordan Hicks, but I mean, pretty much this week is like just pick the rookie quarterback you like the least and load up a defense against them.